Hi friends, so today I'm going to make a video about doing graduate study in the US and in general studying in the US as a prospect and as a choice. And in today's videos I'm going to discuss the good aspects about studying in the US. So let's look at the 5 points. So the number one point is that US has some of the world's best universities, and this comes out in all the different rankings which are put out each year, and also from the knowledge you have garnered in terms of the name recognition and so on for the different universities. So if you think about the top universities in the world, you'll have a plethora of names from US such as Harvard, Stanford, Caltech, Princeton, Berkeley, University of Michigan, University of Chicago, University of Washington, Seattle, and so on. So essentially there are a plethora of universities out there in the US, and this makes it a top destination for many students throughout the world. So let's look at the second issue. The second point is that typically you can expect your professors to be very good in their chosen field in the US. So essentially, even if you go to any local university, any normal state school, you will find that the professors are excellent. And this is something which is sometimes different in developing countries for that matter, because what happens is that in many developing countries, at the top schools, you have very good professors. But if you go down to the middle level or the lower level schools, the quality of the professors comes down substantially. And this is not only the case in developing countries but also in many of the other developed countries in the world. So in US you can be sure that not only in a top college but also in a state university, in a tier 2 state university, or even in a community college, you are going to get a very good professor who is very good at teaching his or her subject. So that's the point number 2 about studying in US. Now the third issue is choice of coursework. Now one of the important things, not only for the bachelor's degree but also for the master's and the PhD degree, is the quantity and quality of the courses which are there for you. And most US universities have a plethora of coursework. And one of the great things about a US university is most of them are actually universities, not institutes of technologies or institutes of sciences. So they not only have courses in the particular domain, be it science, engineering, technology, but also you can take courses in business, you can take courses in humanities and social sciences, and vice versa for the people who are studying in some of the humanities and social science disciplines. They can always take courses in sciences and the engineering departments if they want to. So one of the positive sides of having a university is that there is a lot of interaction which takes place among the faculty, among the students, because the students stay in some of the dorms. They are all mixed together, and very often they will be renting places. They are all staying together. So when I was a grad student, I had a roommate who was studying physics, I had a roommate who was studying philosophy, and so on. So you get a good cross fertilization of various concepts when you study in a typical US university. So the choice of coursework is also very useful for graduate students, because if you decide to work in some domain which is multidisciplinary, you will find that you can take a variety of courses and you can do your research better. So your research may require you to take courses in statistics and psychology and machine learning and natural languages. So you can come up with a concoction of coursework which can help you create a research training program for your PhD thesis or master's thesis, as the case may be. The number 4 issue is great lab facilities. So most of the US universities have very good lab facilities, and this is very important in some of the disciplines which have more of a lab focus. So if you are studying a discipline such as mechanical engineering or aerospace engineering for that matter, you have excellent lab facilities and you may actually want to take part in a design project and make some small vehicles or drones as part of your project. So a lot of these machining shops and all are there at various US universities, and so what you can do is that you can create some of these good designs as part of your design projects. And very often the people who work in the lab, they are very friendly. There are also grad students who are very well versed in some of these labs. So part of the engineering curriculum involves actually doing things, and the only other country I have seen where people take a similar or even greater interest in doing things is in Germany, where they have a lot of dedication toward actually making things in the university lab. And so that's something you can take advantage of, the various lab facilities which are out there. Finally, I would say number 5, and this is probably the most important aspect, is that there is a very clean and proper process in terms of giving degrees, and there is a possibility of taking certain courses, taking minors and so on. So if we look at the bachelor's degree, you can spend the first couple of years just trying to figure out what you want to do, and then you can decide on exactly the discipline you are choosing. You can take different minors, so various possible permutations and combinations are possible. You can study something like computer science, but your minor may be in physics or history for that matter. So many such things are possible. So there is a lot of flexibility. Now, if you are doing graduate study, this becomes even more important because there is a particular process out there. If you are a PhD student, there is a very clear-cut committee which will help to manage your work. So though you have a PhD supervisor, there is a committee also there, and there is a very standardized comprehensive test which you have to give. There are a bunch of courses which you take, and then there is a proposal defense and so on. So one of the advantages of the US PhD system is that the review process is within the university, and this is often very useful for you because in case there are some issues coming up in your PhD, you will know it right at that point. You will know it from one of the professors that there is something you need to do. Maybe they'd like you to do an experiment to verify your simulation. They want you to do some statistical calculations to check out the randomness in your data. So you are going to get some of this feedback right at the university. Now, in some of the foreign countries, like in Europe, India, and some other places, what happens is that you may send your PhD thesis outside to an examiner in a different university and even in a different country, and sometimes this person may not be cognizant of what you have done, about some of the limitations you may have in terms of facilities out there for you, and so you may get a very harsh review, and sometimes even your thesis may get rejected. So that's why sometimes people have a lot of problems in various universities getting their PhD degree done, because the supervisor is somewhat worried about submitting the PhD thesis, because at any point he or she is not totally sure if the work is sufficient to warrant a PhD degree, because if you are going to send this out somewhere else in the world, it typically depends on the eyes of that beholder as to how good your beautiful your PhD thesis is. So these were some of the points I had, and there is a bonus point I'll tell you, that's about funding. So essentially there are a lot of scholarships out there. Many people think they have to pay their way through most of the BS type of degrees, but it's not true. Many of the large universities have a lot of money, and if you make a good case of need as well as why you would benefit from the degree, they can give you funding. So keep that in mind. And in case you are a graduate student, if you are a US citizen, there are a lot of fellowships out there, especially in STEM. And if you are not a US citizen, you can always go for the RAs or the TAs. So again, if you are helping a professor in research, there is funding for that. That can also cover your tuition and living expenses. If you are helping a professor or professors in teaching, there is funding for that also. So in fact, most graduate students can get some form of funding. So that's another aspect of the US system, is that you typically can fund yourself whether you are a US citizen or you are studying in the F1 visa. So these were some points I had about why the US education system is very good, and how you can take advantage of this system and study in the US. Now, not all is good, of course, so I'm going to make a video on all the things which are bad in the US education system, and this thing I'm going to focus more on the graduate study part, because there some of the lacunas are more visible. So I will end this video now, and I will see you in a video sometime soon. See you then.